Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of the Monsters Den. Today, in the co-captain's chair, once again, Mr. Chris Alo.
Hey, Pete. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me, as always, Pete.
Great to have you here, as always. And so by request and also, well, so here's the deal. So we've been asked by a few people to start potentially doing some ranking films when it comes to horror movies, kind of like we do on the regular Sea of Tranquility shows. We do lots of ranking the albums and ranking songs, all that sort of thing. People love lists. They love ranking shows. So people have asked for us to kind of incorporate that into the Monsters Den. So we were actually going to do a show where Chris was going to talk about the Friday the 13th complete box set, right? Which there it is, right?
All 12 Friday the 13th movies on 16 Blu-rays.
There you go. So we figured, well, we can do that. We can certainly talk about that and Chris can show it, but why don't we just rank these films? So that's what we have tasked ourselves with. So we're going to rank all 12 of them. I've got here the 8-film collection, which goes up until Jason Takes Manhattan, which is what, part 8, right? Correct?
Yep.
And I've also got the Freddy versus Jason here, which technically I think comes 2 films later, if I remember correctly. And something like that, 2 or 3, I don't even remember.
Where's that?
Well, there was this, and then there was the reboot, right? So
yes. So that's the 11th of the series.
Right, exactly. And a lot of varying degrees of quality here. But as Chris and I were just talking before we went on the air, out of all these many horror franchises, and there's a lot of them, and many of them really overstay their bounds. And after the first couple films, they just kind of go down the toilet, but they keep making them. Most of these films are pretty fun still. Right. So
yeah, and even the ones that are terrible, and there's some terrible ones, they're still entertaining.
Yeah. If you want your heaping amounts of gore, your splashes of nudity and sex, and the nonsensical plot lines and the really bad acting, but you got Jason Voorhees, who's kind of a horror icon. He's not kind of, he is a horror icon in all of them. And I think he's enough of a popular figure to kind of draw people to these movies. They could probably keep making these forever and people will still watch them. Critics will hate them, right? Critics will hate them.
Because they always did.
Right. But guys like us will always watch them.
Absolutely.
So in saying that, so before, I don't know, Chris, if you want to just show off the box set a little bit first, and then get into the ranking, however you want to do this here.
It's a pretty nice box set. This came out, a couple weeks ago. It's all 12 movies on 16 discs, because some of the movies are spread out. The original, you get the original Friday the 13th, and the uncut version is on a second disc. I think they do the same thing with Jason Goes to Hell, and then there's extras on every disc, and then there's, I think, 2 more discs at the end, which is just bonus stuff, and that thing is loaded. I haven't even attempted to watch this yet. I mean, they I don't know what the total number of hours. I think it's more than 24 hours of just extras. It's got to be. I mean, one of the discs, I think all the discs have at least 1 running commentary track, but I think most of them have 2 or 3 running commentary. At least most of them have at least 2, and I forget which one it is. Maybe it's the New Blood had 4 running commentary tracks.
Jeez.
I was like, holy smokes. I mean, that's a lot. So it's a great set. It sold out like right away, but I think you can still get on Amazon. There was the version that came right from Shout Factory, which is the version I got. It came with like 2 limited edition posters, which I have, and of course I stuck the posters somewhere and probably never see them again. But I have them. I have them. So.
And how are the covers on all the individual discs? So they
did a really nice job, because that's what they did. They made each disc like it's something you would find in a store, which I thought was really nice. they didn't skimp on, and did they do stuff on the inside too? Yeah, there's stuff on the inside too. So I did really like that. There's nothing worse. I mean, I know we're not talking music now, but like when I was a kid, I got the Utilized Venom box set, and I got it home, and I was so disappointed that these sleeves were just a Xerox of the album cover. It wasn't the actual album cover. There was no lyrics or anything. And this is nice. They did a great job. And I think there's a book in here. Yeah, big book with pictures and essays and stuff. I mean, they did a really nice job. I think Amazon has it now for as cheap as, I think it's like $110, which for 16 Blu-rays.
Yeah, that's
good. Really cheap. And I know, Pete, you and I always complain when they put it in some kind of weird fucking box. Like, this is nice. It's a normal box. It could just sit on the shelf. It's not some stupid shape thing. I mean, if I move that Batman 66 box set one more time, the thing is like this big. I'm like, oh Jesus, what are the...
I have mine on a weird shelf somewhere because it doesn't fit anywhere else, right? Yeah.
It takes up like 3 feet of space. It's like, come on.
Or that Godzilla set, right? I mean, that's another one.
Another one. It's super thin, but it's like the size of a pizza box. So I like it. Just make it normal size, and then you can put it on a shelf. And they did a real good job. The number one selling point for me was, I've always liked, like a lot of people, Friday the 13th Part 2, and they found the long lost gore footage that was cut by the MPAA to get an R rating. It's not back in the movie, but it's one of the extras, but it looks fantastic. I mean, I must have watched that 3-4 times already. And as good as Part 2 is with that extra blood, oh man, it would have been even better.
So how much time are we talking? How much time are we talking about?
It's not a lot of running time. It's maybe like a minute and a half of additional running time, but it's all gore. Of course, you got to get a little bit into the scene and a little bit after. So really, maybe it's a minute of footage, but everything is grislier. No surprise, because the first one famously was cut. I mean, thankfully the foreign markets got the uncut version, and that's how that survived. Otherwise, we would have been stuck with America, with the trimmed version, which is still great.
Oh yeah.
But Tom Savini did such great work on those special effects. It's nice to see, everything squirting around.
Absolutely. So cool. That's a pretty good looking set. I mean, mine here, this is kind of bare bones, obviously.
Which was great though. I had that one. I just gave that away because my buddy, I gave it to my buddy for my buddy Bill, Lynn's cousin. I gave it to Lynn's cousin Bill to give to his son because they didn't have the Blu-rays. And I'm like, well, everything on that is ported over to here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well, of course, you know what they did, Pete? They did 4K remasters, but only on the first 4, and then, downgraded them to Blu-ray. And the other ones are still all the old masters. But I was like, I couldn't pass it up. I had to have it. It's curse.
Chris Alo can't pass that up right now.
Oh, God. Put a box set in mine. Can't wait to order that new Black Sabbath box set for Volume 4, even though there's really not much new on it. They got Live at Last for the millionth time is on there, and
I know
some other crap, but I gotta have it.
Like how many? Yeah, you got. If it gets to a point where how many times you're going to keep buying these things over and over and over again, right?
That's true.
Ugh,
at least there's some kind of outtakes, but that's a whole nother. That's
a whole other kit of caboodle, right?
That's a whole other, absolutely.
All right, so let's start. Let's rank these things. So why don't you?
All right.
Your number 12.
Let me see if I can. If I can grab the thing. What did I just do with it? All right, so not that one. Okay, so the worst, in my opinion, the worst of the series by far. It still sucks. Jason Takes Manhattan. I remember seeing this in the theater, whatever year it came out in 1989, and I was so psyched because I thought Jason going into the city was going to be awesome, and it sucks. He's in the city for like the last 10 minutes of the movie. Most of the movie is shot in Canada and made it look like it's New York City. There's no memorable characters. You don't root for any of the kids. It's not the director's fault, but all the blood got cut out. But the main thing is the plot is just nonsensical, which started, probably like I think about episode 3. But man, I absolutely hate the ending where there's toxic waste being flooded into New York City. And we see Jason earlier in the film where he's like a somewhat normal looking kid. He doesn't look anything like Tom Savini's Jason from Friday 1. But at the end of the movie, toxic waste comes in, hits adult Jason, and turns him back into a child. It's like, what? What does that mean? It just makes no sense. And it's like insulting. It's so yeah, that's, to me, this is the worst of the worst. But I still, even though I hated it, in 1991, I was at a record store, Pete, and they had the Laserdisc on sale for $8.95, and I bought it.
Of course you did.
I still have it on DVD and other lasers, and it's terrible. But it's an awful movie. It's really the worst of the bunch.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not good. I will back you up on that. I just don't know if it's the worst, because there's a couple for me that are just really, really bad. Again, all these films, some of the ones at the bottom of the list, they're bad. There's fun moments in them, but they're just like, God, they just make no sense. Like for me, my number 12 is Jason X from 2002.
Okay.
Jason going to outer space. Sure, why not, right?
Right.
I would have never thought that, but hey, whatever. It's silly as hell. I remember going to the theater, and I've seen all these films either in the theater or I rented them. I've always been a fan, and I remember like walking out of that movie, and I'm thinking, man, that was pretty bad. I wish I can get my money back. I don't normally say that, right? But it was not good, and horrible acting, silly plot, really no plot actually. Not really that gory or violent, or not like some of the other ones. And I just think the film just didn't make any sense. And I never wondered why they even bothered making that film. Right. Let's just try something completely different. If it wasn't bad enough that they tried to bring him into Manhattan, let's put him into space now, right? I don't know. Just didn't work for me at all. And to me, like I said, I agree with you. The Manhattan film is pretty bad. There's a couple others, as we're going to talk about, are also really bad. But Jason X for me was just kind of like, I don't know why they bothered.
Yeah, it is pretty bad. My next bad one, and I go back and forth with this one because when I saw it in the theater, I liked it in whatever it was, like 92 or 93. And then I saw it on home video, and I was like, this one's really not so good. And I really didn't like it. And then I saw it again recently, and I'm like, maybe it's not the worst of the series. And it's Jason Goes to Hell. I mean, I like the way Jason looks. He's big, and his skin is like his skin is like growing into the mask. Really good special effects from K&D Studios. The beginning is great, and the ending is pretty good, but the whole section in the middle just kind of sucks. And really the whole movie is just a ripoff of The Hidden, and Jason is barely there. So that's I flip back and forth with this. I don't know what but I still think because there's some good kills and there's some blood, it's better than Jason Takes Manhattan.
I'll agree with you on that.
And there's that one really good kill where there's a girl. If I didn't take notes when I watched all these movies again, but if I remember right, there's a girl having sex with a guy in the tent, and he chops her in half. Jason chops her in half, like right through, like right down the middle. I think that's this one.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah. So that was at least we got that. But yeah, it's totally The Hidden. How nobody, I know we've talked about this before, Pete. How nobody in the production of this film was like, "Hey, I've seen this before, and it's called The Hidden." But anyway.
Yeah, it's like how the early films just totally ripped off that Mario Bava film, right? It's so
yes, absolutely. We'll certainly get to that. That's for sure.
All right, so my number 11, I'm going to go with Friday the 13th: A New Beginning from 1985.
Okay.
So this is the second film with the Tommy Jarvis character, right? He was the main character. Now he's like what, a teenager now. He's got all these, horrible nightmares and dreams and memories of dealing with Jason, who he apparently killed. But wait a second, no, Jason's back now, or is he? Right?
Right.
It's like, now they're trying to play off that like Jason is someone else's Jason. It's like, what? And again, really, really bad story. Some great kills in this film though. And that's that's the thing that kind of drives some of these movies. They're just like totally nonsensical, but the gore is there. You got the copious amount of sex in this movie as well.
Great nudity in part 5.
Yeah. But the plot is just absolutely ridiculous. And I hate the end of this film. It's just
agreed.
Again, it's hard to rank some of these because some of the ones at the bottom are just like, they're pretty terrible. Even though we love them for what they are, they're just like, man, this is not cinema brilliance here by any means, right?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Oh yeah. So I'm going to put that as my number 11.
All right. Well, we're within a couple of them because my next worst one is Jason X, and agree with everything Pete said. It's just nonsensical plot. The whole movie is like a ripoff of Alien and Aliens.
Yep.
There's some fun parts, but it sucks at the same time. And I hate the way normal Jason looks in the beginning of the movie because he's fat and he's got like messy hair. He just looks fucking terrible. Uber Jason looks good, and they like immediately put him on a diet. But the one kill that's really good and memorable from that movie is when he takes the pretty blonde and he puts her face in the ice thing, and then she freezes and he just breaks her head on the table. That part was cool. I remember this movie was heavily bootlegged. I was going to go see it in the theater, and then my buddy got a bootleg VHS, and I watched the work print of it, and I'm like, wow, this movie sucks. And I did not go see it like I'm sure many other people did.
Yeah, that is a pretty memorable kill. And I think that it's kind of bad though when you think about it that to save some of these horrible movies, well, it's got one great kill, so that at least there's that, right?
Right.
And almost all of these have at least one of those.
Oh, for sure.
And that's like the important thing. So, all right, let's see, what are we, number 10, right? I'm going to go with the reboot from 2009, just called Friday the 13th. I think they had obviously a lot of money to pump into this film. Looks really good. It's good and dark. They try to make it really serious. But again, not a lot of story here. But if all you really want from these films, forget sending them to the moon and sending them to Manhattan and showing up here, there, and everywhere. If you just want to see Jason at Camp Crystal Lake going on a rampage and killing kids, that's what this movie is all about. And some people, that's the formula they like, and that's what they want. A lot of kills. They leave it open at the end to another sequel, which we're still waiting. That was 11 years ago, 12 years ago. It's probably never going to happen now, right?
Not at this point.
Yeah. So not awful. Maybe a little bit awful, but I saw this in the theater as well, and I was like, that's okay. As a way to kind of reboot the series, I'm like, it's back to basics, right? And back to basics in a series franchise like this is not necessarily a bad thing. Hey, at least I'm trying to remember if sometimes I get like the actual endings confused with some of these, but how many times have they like sunk him at the bottom of the lake, right? It's like, at least they didn't go back to a lot of the similar things we've seen before. But good looking film though, I think. Yeah,
that one I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it as much as the others.
Yeah. It's it has its merits.
Yeah, it has its moments. But yeah, this one Pete just did a minute ago, Friday the 13th, Part 5, The New Beginning. I remember seeing it in the theater. I guess I was like 14 or something, and I thought it was okay as a 14-year-old. And then you get to the end, and you're like, "Wait, this hasn't been Jason the whole time? It's the Night Watchman from fucking Scooby-Doo? Like, this is a terrible idea."
Yeah.
And then you're gonna make Tommy Jarvis the killer? Like, it just sucks. But really good nudity, some okay kills. Man, I hate that hillbilly mom and dad though. they couldn't fucking get killed fast enough. And yeah, that's it. I mean, Danny Steinman, the director, directed one of my favorite movies, Savage Streets, and he was a character, all right. I met him years ago at a convention, and a lot of people were bringing up their Friday the 13th stuff. So I was bringing up a Savage Streets poster, which I'd already had Linda Blair and Linnea Quigley sign at some other convention. And he looks at me, he's like, Savage Streets. He's like, you like that one, huh? I go, yeah. He goes, yeah, I made that. I'm like, yeah, I know. He goes, you see Linda Blair's tits in that movie? I'm like, yeah, I saw him. He's like, yeah, that was something. I was like, okay, can you sign the poster? So he was a character. So that's the guy that made Friday 5.
That's hilarious. What a great story. God, I haven't seen Savage Streets in a million years.
Wow. Oh, yeah, I'll take that over most of these Fridays. That's a great bad movie.
Yeah, it totally is. Totally is. I remember renting that on VHS back like in the 80s. That yeah. All right. And you know what else about that film too? About The New Beginning? It's like, I think at the end of that movie, it was like, all right, I think I'm done with this Tommy Jarvis character.
Right. You weren't the only one.
Yeah.
Although they did bring it back for one more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 6, and they just, yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. All right. So my number 9 is Jason Takes Manhattan Part 8. I mean, yeah, I think they were the well was running dry here, but they just kind of kept going with it. You know, hey, let's take Jason out of Camp Crystal Lake, right? Why not, right? Hey, might work. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they spend the entire movie on that friggin' boat.
On the boat. Makes no sense.
Right. It's like, when are they ever going to get somewhere, right? And then swim into Manhattan, right? And it's like, and then, a little bit of mayhem ensues for about, like 20, 30 minutes, if that. If you're going to advertise Jason Takes Manhattan, why don't you have him rampaging around the city for the majority of the film, right?
Totally.
And the acting in this film is absolutely
terrible. Yeah. I hate the cast, hate the characters. Just the kills are not that good. No. Other than the boxer. I like when the boxer gets his head punched off and it goes. That made me laugh, even though I've seen the movie a ton of times.
Right. That is worthwhile. I think the short period of time where he's actually in the city is not too bad. But again, it's like a little too late, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, they explained that they had no money in the budget to shoot much in the city, but then they maybe should have not called it Jason Takes Manhattan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Oh, well.
But yeah, my next pick is Friday the 13th, Part 6. Jason, right? Why is this? Oh, yeah, it does say Jason Lives. It's because what hell's? And it's okay. It's when there's, I felt like they're starting to get better now. It's very gothic. It's like an old Frankenstein movie with the graveyard stuff. There's a good kill with Horshack when he gets punched in the heart. But overall, I don't really like Tom Matthews as Tommy Jarvis. I mean, it's our third Tommy Jarvis movie, third different actor. And like Tom Matthews, he's a fine actor. It's just every time I see him, I still think it's Freddy from Return of the Living Dead. So I just, I just couldn't disconnect for whatever reason. But a lot of people love this movie. There's also no nudity. I could never understand why there's no nudity in this one. But it's not bad, but it's not great. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. And it's funny as you're talking about that, I realized that I have my films out of order because all of a sudden I saw that one way high up in my list. I'm like, no, that is not correct. So bear with me a second here. I'm just rearranging to put this where it should belong. Let's see. All right, where are we at? That was number 8 for you, right?
I think so. I didn't number them.
Yes, yeah. So that's okay. It's number 8. Okay, I'm back on track here. All right, so I'm gonna go with Jason Goes to Hell, Final Friday, 1993. So this is like they kind of call this the last of the original series in a weird way, right? Before X and Freddy versus Jason, all that kind of stuff. So this was the first New Line.
Yeah, I think so, right? Yeah.
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 First
Paramount, man, Jason Takes Manhattan was the last one through Paramount, if I remember.
Yeah, I mean, this one is just kind of ridiculous. Here you got the dead Jason, who's apparently killed by the FBI. How they got to do that, as opposed to everybody else, I don't know.
You look cool. I at least like the pretty girl getting naked, and then she's an FBI agent, and all the FBI agents come out and blow Jason up, which is something you never thought you'd see.
Right.
But wait, where does the movie go from there?
Exactly, right? Now all of a sudden he's like kind of like this supernatural character, and now he can kind of possess people to do his killings for him. I'm like, what? So you're watching this film. It's like, all right, we got these hearts and these daggers and worms, and I'm like, this is like absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun in a weird way, right? I think out of all these films, this is the one that's just like absolutely all over the place. And it doesn't make any sense no matter which way you turn. But in the end, you're kind of like, all right, that was an enjoyable 90 minutes or 85 minutes, whatever the hell it is, It's like, all right.
Like most of these movies. I mean, you could do worse.
Yeah, true. And I always like the poster for this. I always thought that was kind of cool.
Yep.
But again, one of the ones where they kind of tried to do some different stuff here. Does it work? Whether it works is debatable, but hey, whatever. All right, back to you.
All right, my next one is the Friday the 13th remake from 2009 that Pete touched on a minute ago. I saw this one in the theater. I didn't love it. I think the ending kind of sucks. But there's some really good gore. I mean, if you compare this to some of the ones from the 80s, this thing is so violent and gory. Some great nudity. I don't know the actress's name, but the actress at the end of the movie that gets naked, holy smokes. It's basically a greatest hits. It's like they took the best parts of Friday 1, 2, 3, and 4 and rewrote it, and that's this. And there's a little Easter egg that nobody ever talks about but me. I think it's an Easter egg, unless I'm crazy, but there's a guy that was in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, this old man, and he's like driving a tow truck. And there's a part where Jason has he kills somebody and he throws the body on the back of the tow truck. And the guy from the Chainsaw remake sticks his head out, smiles at Jason and drives away. And I'm like, well, what was that? Were they going to do a Freddy versus Leatherface? But I'm like, wait, Camp Crystal Lake is in New Jersey and Leatherface is in Texas. How are they going to?
Yeah.
But anyway, doesn't matter.
That would have been kind of cool, actually.
Yeah. But I'm the only one that remembers that. And it's still in there. But nobody ever talks about it.
Interesting. Yeah, I missed that. I might have to rewatch that again.
Yeah. It's quick. But it's like a tow truck. He throws a dead body on for some reason. But yeah, overall, it's okay.
It's got a
when I saw it in Connecticut, I saw it in Danbury, Connecticut, opening night. They actually had local police officers at the theater, and they were checking IDs after kids had already bought the tickets and were coming into the screening room. And I'm like, to this day, I'm like, really? That's what you're doing with taxpayers' money?
Yeah. You should be doing that when they're going to buy the tickets. I mean, right. just like you would at a bar or anything like that. You're not going to sell an underage kid a drink, and then when they go walk to their table, and then you're going to proof them, right? You got to do it beforehand.
Totally. Or just let the theater hand. I mean, it's a boob or some fake blood. If an underage kid sneaks in, I'm like, oh God, there's not worse things in the world, but that's a whole nother.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, my number 7, part 6, Jason Lives from 86. Last film with the Tommy Jarvis character. Thank you. Again, kind of crazy. Is this Friday the 13th movie, or is this like Frankenstein? So, Tommy helps revive Jason from his grave. He intends to kind of like totally do away with him for good, but he takes him out of the grave. He puts that pipe or whatever in his chest. And then in the middle of it, and then all of a sudden we got a storm coming, and the lightning goes down and hits the pipe, and boom, just like Frankenstein, Jason is revived. I'm like, all right, this is kind of ridiculous, but I think, and again, this is one of the couple films where at the end of the movie, Jason gets, what they do, they attach some like big heavy rock or something to him or whatever it is, cement block.
Yeah, they chain up a big rock and throw the rock in the water.
Yeah, so it's like, what is this, the mafia, right?
Right,
So
that's the one.
He's down at the bottom of the lake, he can't go anywhere. He's got the chain on, so it's like, all right, I get, and like that, like anybody thinks that's going to kill him, right? It's like, come on. But so they make it's like, is this the end of Jason? Yeah, I don't think so. Obviously not, because it's part 6, and we got 12 films here. So and they did that a couple times where they're like, if we get him down at the bottom of the lake so he can never resurface again, we'll be done with him. But yeah, that's not the case.
No,
not the case.
Definitely not. So my next one, I saw this one in the theater. It was very, very many years in the making, was Freddy vs. Jason. It's got some good blood. It's got some good kills. But holy shit, they were trying to make this movie forever. They finally make it, and they make it without Kane Hodder as Jason. I mean, holy shit, what a missed opportunity. Yeah. And they did it on purpose for whatever reason. Robert Englund is great as Freddy. The plot is just nonsensical. Springfield is in like Illinois, and Camp Crystal Lake is in New Jersey, and the kids are driving with Jason, who's sleeping after they gave him tranquilizers. But why would tranquilizers work on him if he's dead? Yeah. I mean, the whole thing, I hated the plot twist, how they were like, well, we have to hurt Jason with water because Jason's afraid of water. And I'm like, well, that's a great thing if we hadn't seen Jason pop out of the water to kill that really cute brunette in like part 4 or 5. Like, okay, so that doesn't make any sense. And the ending just sucked. Like the fight scene was kind of cool, but kind of goofy, like a cartoon or the Three Stooges. And then just the whole, Jason carrying Freddy's head in the wink, and just stupid. I think some good blood.
Yeah, some good blood. And I'll get to that in a second. But I think that was one of those films that probably went through various alterations.
There's a whole book on it.
Yeah, and in the end, they were probably like, all right, we really can't afford to do anything more with this film. So however, whatever we put together here, let's stop doing what we're doing. Let's just release it. And it kind of feels that way, right?
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
So, all right. So before I get to that, my number 6 is The New Blood, which is part 7 from 1988. Here you got Kane Hodder as Jason, who I think for most people that he was the ultimate Jason. I mean, he just had the moves. He was big, Kane is big. And I never understood why they moved away from having him, because I think once he started playing Jason, I think he was the ultimate one. I think most people think that. But, here we got another weird ass story, Jason going against the teenage telepath.
Right.
Okay. Why not? Right. Jason, once again, we're back at Camp Crystal Lake. Again, at the end of the film, he gets dragged down to the depths of the lake again. So they've kind of done that a couple times, and you think they'd learn by now. But I mean, the actress, the young actress who played the telepath, she was kind of all right in this film, I guess. But it's just, why would a telepath have any more success against Jason than all these other people that we've seen before? It just really doesn't make a lot of sense. I know they were the telepath character in horror was very popular around that time, so it's not surprising they decided to go this route, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's actually my next pick. Basically, Jason versus Carrie. I did think I love Kane Hodder. I love the look. That's my favorite Jason. Yeah. I love when the mask comes off and he looks like the zombie from Lucio Fulci Zombie, and that was done on purpose. John Carl Buechler, who directed it, was he was a special effects guy, and that's why I do like this movie, because it's filled with special effects and stunts and action, and of course more gore, which unfortunately got cut by the Motion Picture Association of America. But I like it. I wish we could get the uncut version, but all that footage is lost. And it's got one of my favorite kills of the series when Kane Hodder, who is the best Jason, picks up the sleeping bag and throws the girl against the tree, killing her, which is just awesome.
Were you like me? As soon as you saw it, you're like, ouch.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Right.
And they do have the terrible version of the original special effect where he picks up the sleeping bag and he whacks her against the tree like 5 times, and the MPAA was like, "Oh no, you can't do that." So they cut it to 1, but the 1 actually does make it so much more. It just emphasizes it so much more. It just makes it so much more powerful.
Like a thunderous whack, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like there is no way that vertebrae is surviving that.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But yeah, a fun one that's different. Maybe a little too different. I mean, Jason versus Carrie is weird, but yeah, not terrible.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, my number 5, and I don't know why I put it here. I guess because because we waited so long for it. But I put Freddy versus Jason as my number 5. It's hokey as all hell, but I marked out at the time, seeing these 2 iconic horror murderers, characters, whatever you want to call them, the boogeymen, teaming up sort of, and then going at it, even though the final big fight was a little on the disappointing side. But I just think for me, I marked out so much because it's like, it was just so cool to see as a kid growing up, seeing Frankenstein versus the Wolfman. Like, yes, we had to wait all these years to see another big monster mashup like this.
Right.
When you really think about it, right? But but you're right. The story is just absolutely ridiculous. Freddy trying to get Jason to do his bidding so he can, regain his powers to come back and take care of the kids, and he's kind of posing as his mom, and and then the whole ending scene is totally ridiculous, right? He cuts his head off, he's walking with the head, and then the wink thing is just like, oh, seriously, come on, But it's kind of fun, as cheesy as it is.
Yeah, it has its moments.
Yeah. There was all this talk. I mean, you probably remember this too. There was a lot of talk about doing a lot of these big kind of monster matchups. And there was talk about getting Leatherface involved and Michael Myers. Yep. And, they finally, this is all we got really. We other than like Alien Predator, there was nothing else. All that talk, and that's all that happened.
And the crazy thing is, Jason versus Freddy was a huge hit.
Yeah, it was.
And they were the next sequel was supposed to be Jason versus Freddy versus Ash from the Evil Dead movies, and they never got made. The script did get turned into a comic book, which I bought multiple copies of, but I never read. But I have them, Pete. But from what I remember reading or seeing in an interview, it was Sam Raimi was on the phone with the producers of both the Jason series and the Freddy series, and he was like, okay, so how does Ash win? And they were like, the other producers were, owners, of course, of the licenses were like giving grief. And he's like, well, Ash has to win, which is, of course, what all the fans would want to see. And they were giving him grief, and they just, okay, forget it, never mind. And then they never made anything else with Jason versus Freddy.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Yeah, I would have loved to have seen Michael Myers be a part of this somehow.
Yeah, that would be good.
I think next to Jason, he's probably the one who's like, you're never killing that guy, right? Never, ever. He's going to come back no matter what. But it's hard though when you got all these different film studios and what have you, right? It's just like anything else. Like it's like boxing. It's like whatever. You just record labels, all that kind of stuff. They don't play well together.
What's it? Too many cooks ruin the kitchen or whatever. Yeah, totally.
It's crazy.
Well, yeah. So now we're in the home stretch. Top 4. So my pick is Friday the 13th Part 3 in Super 3D.
Super 3D.
I did see this in the theater, although I saw it in the drive-in, and I was really bummed because I didn't, as a kid, I guess I was a stupid 11-year-old, or I didn't read the newspaper well enough. I didn't realize that at the time, 3D movies could not be projected in 3D at the drive-in.
Yep.
So it was Friday the 13th 3 and the Klaus Kinski Snake movie Venom. which was a decent movie. But I was bummed. I have seen it several times in 3D since, and this is the first time on Blu-ray it's in real 3D. The previous Friday 3D release came with the little paper glasses, and you could watch it on any TV in 3D. This release is made for 3D televisions, and if you still have a 3D TV and you're like the expensive 3D glasses, you can watch it in 3D, and the 3D is really good. I remember watching this recently when even the title sequence, man, I mean, the title sequence just jumps at you. I actually backed up a little bit. And there's some great kills, like when Jason squeezes the guy's head and the eyeball pops out, and they shoot the tear gun. I love that stupid disco theme, but there's some stuff I hate. I hate that dirty married couple who owns that dirty deli. I hate the stupid bikers who are obviously not bikers.
Are terrible. Yeah, they're terrible.
I remember even as a kid at 11 years old, like there's the scene, and I forget the girl's name. Dana Kimmel from Sweet 16. She's the lead, and it's like towards the beginning of the movie, she's explaining how she almost got raped in the woods, and it's this big guy with like a gargoyle looking face, and I remember going, well, who's that? Because I had seen Friday Part 2 in the drive-in, and the last time I saw Jason, his head looked different, and he had a sack on his head. So I remember going, well, who the fuck is this guy trying to rape this girl? And then later in the movie, you find out that that's Jason, and I'm like, well, why didn't he have the sack? Like, how am I supposed? That still bothers me to this day. I'm like, what? I don't understand.
And Jason was never a rapist, right? He just wanted to kill them.
Well, but he doesn't try to kill her. I think he was trying to get some in Part 3. If you watch it, he's kind of, but who knows? Because he's wrestling her.
But that's why it was weird, because in all the other films, I mean, when does he ever show an interest in the? He just wants to butcher them, right?
They're all gorgeous girls. Why did he want to rape this one girl?
Yeah,
I don't know. Who knows? But that bothered me. Of course, this is the first movie where he actually does get the hockey mask.
Yeah. I saw that in the theaters. I saw it with the 3D glasses. I was like, that was a load of fun.
It is. It's a fun flick, but that one part really bugs me.
I don't blame you. All right, yeah. I mean, the top 4 for me were kind of hard to rank, because for me my top 4 are easily my favorites. These are pretty good, a lot of fun. I went with Part 2 coming in at number 4. I could have ranked it higher because I dig Part 2, and Jason finally joins the carnage on this, right? So we get the first movie, second movie where we finally get to see him. But of course, he's got the sack over his head with the 2 little holes in him, whatever, which, kind of cool.
Yeah.
Looking back on him now, although, you were so used to him with the hockey mask that when you watch the second film now, it's kind of bizarre. It's almost like not quite a Friday the 13th film, but it is, of course. And then, I think we forget, like, do you know, is there a number of how many times we've seen him without something covering his face throughout all these films?
I mean, it's almost every movie, isn't it? I know that. I don't think they do it in Manhattan, other than when he's a baby. But gosh, I think they do it in most of the movies. And the thing that's frustrating is
he looks different all the time.
Every single time.
Yeah.
I guess it's like Godzilla. It's different. It's different special effects people, so everybody's putting their spin.
Yeah.
But once you get one you really like, you're like, oh, fuck, I wish they stuck with that one.
I know. Yeah, which is kind of frustrating. So, and I one of the things from this film, the second one, is he's not that kind of like indestructible superhuman force yet.
Yes, good point.
He still hasn't become that kind of mythical boogeyman, but he's still a force to be reckoned with, but he's not the Jason we came to know. But a lot of great kills in the second one.
Yes.
I mean, the second one is maybe one of my favorites. When the first 2 or 3 have some really, really cool kills. And then you got that final scene in the shrine out in the shed, right? Where Jason's, was it Pamela? Is that her name? Paula? Something.
Pamela Vorhees, yeah.
Pamela Voorhees, yeah. He's got the mother's like kind of like mummified head sitting on the altar, whatever, and a totally great ending to this film as well. We're not spoiling endings here today, but for the most part. But although I can't imagine there's people out there who haven't seen most of these films, but yeah, the second one, a lot of fun.
spoiler alert, it's been 40 years. So if you haven't seen it by now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, and I think they really started in this film that whole, like, no matter what you do to him, he's going to come back again. So just when you think, all right, he's down, he's out, let's take a deep breath, whatever, into the window he comes, or wherever he comes from, he's always coming back. So I dig the second one quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually my next pick. I saw this in the drive-in in 1981. It was My Bloody Valentine, Friday the 13th Part 2, and the sci-fi movie The Final Countdown, about the World War II carrier going, or the modern aircraft carrier going to World War II. But yeah, from the first time I saw it, I loved it. Great cast. Amy Steele is a great final girl. To me, it's the only sequel that really feels like a sequel to the original. I don't know what it is, but it just kind of does really feel like a continuation. And I think they kind of lost that after starting with Part 3 and forward. One of the best kills ever, with the teenagers screwing, and Jason puts the spear through the two of them. I mean, I remember when I saw it at the drive-in as a 10-year-old. I don't even know if I was 10 yet. Yeah, because it was after May. It was like June, I think I saw it. I was like, holy shit. I thought it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen in a movie. Of course. Like,
and then you went to watch Bay of Blood by Bava, and you're like, oh, wait a second. That's where they ripped it off from.
Yeah, I was just going to say, of course, now we're like, somebody stole this from Bay of Blood.
In fact, that whole Bay of Blood film is the blueprint for this entire series, basically.
Totally. But that's, now looking at it back then, I didn't know who the hell Mario Bava was at 10 years old.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But and the other kill I really liked is the kid in the wheelchair that gets the machete in the head. He rolls backwards, and just the kids in this movie, like the first one, and to some extent the third one, they were like likable. Like I felt bad when the kid in the wheelchair gets it. When the girl sprays the perfume down her pants and then she gets it. It's a likable cast.
Yeah.
I don't like the ending of this one, where Jason breaks through the window, grabs Amy Steele, and then next thing you know, Amy Steele is getting put into the ambulance, and she's like, well, where's Paul? And you're watching it going, well, yeah, where is Paul? And how did Amy Steele get away from Jason? And like, did somebody, I always feel like, did we forget something here? Even when I watched it.
Did that whole scene actually happen or not, right? We don't know.
Yeah. Like what happened, but overall a great flick that really sets up the whole mythology of the series. And there's a couple scenes, one with Paul and one with Amy Steele, right, where they're talking about the whole Jason thing and the mother, and it really sets up the whole series.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really fun film. I like it quite a bit. My number 3 is the first film.
Okay.
The one that started it all. I mean, we talked about the influence of Bay of Blood. Obviously, the influence of Halloween too is deeply felt in this. And after this film, I mean, the summer camp was never the same again.
Right.
I mean, I just watched Sleepaway Camp over the weekend again for the first time in many, many years, and how much fun that is, right? But I mean, we had a lot of these type of films that were just kind of coming out all over the place. And you got Betsy Palmer, longtime actress, playing Jason's mom. Great creepy job. I mean, she was just so creepy, especially the whole last part of the film. You got Kevin Bacon in one of his first film roles ever.
Yeah,
I mean,
think it could be the first.
Yeah, so. Good amount of violence and nudity in this, all not as gratuitous as it would come later on. And this film has this kind of like dark, grainy feel to the whole thing, which I think really, really played off really well and gave it that kind of atmosphere it needed. And of course, the ending is fantastic, right? It's got like one of those great endings that you have to have in a film like this. So, I saw this in the theaters as well. I was 14 years old. This is probably one of the first R-rated films I actually got to see on my own. But it's a classic. It's a classic. If they never did another film after this one, it's still considered a classic.
100%. And that's my next pick. The original Friday the 13th. I definitely agree with everything Pete said. I think they were way ahead of their time, having a woman be this was really the second big slasher after Halloween, and wow, that was a great idea to make the killer a woman and a scorned mother. Really was genius. Amazing special effects from Tom Savini. Great score from Harry Manfredini. That really creepy sound effect. Really likable kids. Adrienne King is a great final girl. The only thing that still bothers me, watching this movie for the millionth time, and I watched it on Blu-ray like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I watched it on cable 2 nights ago, like the second half. I feel it's a Scooby-Doo ending without the beginning of the Scooby-Doo part. Like every Scooby-Doo episode was the kids, coming to the haunted house, and they meet the night watchman, who's a disgruntled worker. And then at the end of the episode, they pull off the mask, and you're like, oh, it's of course it's the night watchman. Like, it still bothers me that we get to the 3/4 of the movie, and then she's like, oh, I'm Mrs. Voorhees. I used to work for the Christies. And I'm like, oh, okay, but this reveal would have meant so much more if we saw Mrs. Voorhees like at the diner. I always say, and I know that they were under the gun and tight budget and all, but you could have even mentioned her, that Mrs. Voorhees, she was working at, she just missed her. She works at the diner now, but she used to work for the Christies.
She's a non-entity at all throughout most of the
yeah. Nothing, and all the we're in the last reel of the movie, and it's like, oh yeah, well, who the hell's this character? Every time I see it, it bugs me. But other than that, it's a great flick, and yeah, you're right. If they never made another one, that would be it would be historical for what it did in the history of slashers.
And I wonder when they when it clicked with them. I mean, obviously, it made some money, right? But I wonder if it
was a hit. It was a big hit.
Yeah, right. But I'm sure when they made the film, they were not, having Jason become were they even thinking about sequels or anything like that? No.
Nothing. There was no plan. Tom Savini, and the mother. I can't think what you just said. Not the lady that played
Betsy Palmer.
Betsy Palmer. They were like, what? They were like, no, Jason's dead. He drowned in the lake. And Tom Savini takes partial credit for the whole jumping out at the end, and he's like, well, that was just a dream thing. So who knows? But right, once it made money, they're like, well, we got to make more, and Jason was the way to do it. And thank God whoever did that, right, and coming up with that last little bit there. Yeah, because they chopping Betsy Palmer's head off, really, there's no way around that. Like, how would
her back, right? Yeah,
bring her back. So,
oh boy, I tell you now, and the rest is history, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So my number 2, I'm going to go with part 3. Again, I have a soft spot for this one because I remember seeing it in the theater. I remember, sitting there with the glasses, and that was a lot of fun. In 1982, I was 16 years old. Being a 16-year-old kid, you just got your license, right? You're going to the movies, going to see a rated R film, and it's a 3D film too. I mean, that carries, right? It carries some weight, right? And I remember just what a fun time that was. Plus, it's the first film where he puts the hockey mask on. There's some really cool kills here. A wildly goofy cast, though.
Yeah.
And again, you got some terrible acting here, but and I like the final climax, which I think is when they're up in the barn and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. But most importantly, it's got one of my favorite characters in this entire series, Larry Zerner, who plays the horror geek Shelley. Yeah. With the curly hair, the kind of heavyset guy who's just wanted to come and have a good time and maybe score with a chick because he's probably a virgin and all that kind of stuff. But he's big into horror, so all he's doing, he's putting on all this makeup and pretending he's been killed and all this kind of stuff. So it's just me just kidding and how everybody was like hating his guts because he was scaring the shit out of them. And then his actual death is actually pretty wild, right? But
pretty gory. It's very pretty gory.
But a fun film. But I agree. The 3 motorcycle folks, just absolutely ridiculous. That whole scene in the convenience store.
Oh, ridiculous with the bunny and everything else.
Oh, it's like, come on, already. But I still think this movie is a hoot, a lot of fun. And
for sure.
That's my number 2.
Nice. Well, that leaves me to my last pick, which is my my number one pick. It's my favorite, and it's Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter.
Yep.
I think Joe Zito did a great direction on it. Who directed The Prowler? Great effects from Tom Savini, who also worked on The Prowler, and of course Friday 1. Kimberly Beck, the final girl, was in Massacre at Central High, and she's awesome. Tommy Jarvis kind of works with Corey Feldman as a kid, and looking at it, I'm like, all right, is this the quintessential, Friday the 13th film? If somebody's never seen Friday the 13th, like, is this the one that you show them? Because it's got a lot of action, it's got a lot of gore, it's good direction. It's got Jason in the hockey mask, which you don't have in the previous 3 for the whole movie.
Right.
And it's got it's a fun flick.
Yeah.
That's my pick.
Well, that's the only one left for me, so that's my favorite as well.
Nice.
Yeah, it's first time Jason and Tommy Jarvis meet. I think they should have left it at that, but I think it really works in this film. And it's got the lovely Kimberly Beck. So, I mean, you got to give it lots of props for that. But, did we think that Jason was dead after he gets what is it, the machete in the 3rd film? No, he's back. And yeah, this is, the first full film with him in the hockey mask. And I think, you hit the nail on the head. If you're going to suggest one film to someone who knows about Jason and the Friday the 13th films, but never seen any of them, and you want Jason as Jason throughout the whole film in a really good film anyway, this is definitely the one. I think this is the one I would recommend. And it's got a good cast. The acting's actually not too bad in this film, right?
Really good. It's got the 2 twins. I like when one of them gets thrown out the window.
Yeah. So it's good, and it has everything you want. Plenty of gore in it. All sorts of TNA and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely a good one. And if you can hold up that DVD again or the Blu-ray again, I mean that's one of my favorite.
Great image for the poster there.
Yeah. So that's all 12. Wow. All 12. So for everybody watching, I'm sure if you're watching this show, you've probably seen a bunch of these or all of these. So feel free to rank them as you like them. No right or wrong answers here, right? I'm sure there's going to be folks who love some of the ones we don't like as much, right? But and that's the beauty of horror films, right? Or
Absolutely.
Anything in general. Anything.
Yeah. It's all what you like.
It's all what you like. So I want to thank Chris for agreeing to tackle this with us here today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to have to go rewatch some of these again, I think.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get through that whole box set?
Oh, geez, like 2 weeks. And like I said, there's hours upon hours of extras. I haven't even scratched the surface.
Well, I mean, that's the thing with a lot of these new, the re-releases, these box sets and these special editions that are coming out. It's like, the films themselves are about 90 minutes long, but then you've got like 2 or 3 hours worth of bonus stuff or more in each one. And, I like to have the documentaries, and I'm not a huge commentary track guy for whatever reason, because I know tons of people love it because you get to hear them talking about all these scenes of the film. I find it distracting, me personally, but I think I'm in the minority on that. But I love the documentaries and the interviews with the cast and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know. Have you seen the Scream Factory Blu-ray of Sleepaway Camp? With all
sure, yeah.
With all the interviews with all the surviving cast and everything. I mean, that was fascinating for me.
Yeah, and if you're into the Friday series, there's 2 documentary sets. One is his name was Jason,
right?
And there's another one I can't think of. And yeah, they're all full documentaries with tons of behind the scenes, and you could really have a field day on all the behind the scenes, in addition to all the special features on the new box set.
Yeah,
because neither of those 2 sets are included.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. So much to watch, so little time, right?
If only we were in a pandemic and we could just sit around and watch movies all day.
Wait, we are. All right, everybody, there you have it. Another edition of the Monsters Den in the books. So if you haven't seen any of these Friday the 13th films, go check them out. Feel free to use our ranking system here and, go watch some of our favorites or the ones we didn't like as much, whatever. I think these are all notable for some stuff. And like Chris said, I agree. I think this is probably out of all the horror franchises that have come out, the last like 40 years or so, this is probably the best or one of the more top 2 or 3 easily.
Sure.
So there you have it. So for Chris Alo, I am Pete Pardo. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. More Monsters Den coming up, I believe, next week. Rich Catino is going to jump back on with us. We're going to talk about some non-Dracula vampire film favorites. Okay, that's coming up, as well as holiday horror films. So these horror films that that have to do with Christmas or New Year's or Halloween or April Fool's Day or Mother's Day or Father's Day or whatever, right? There's all sorts of stuff there. So we'll be doing that over the next week or two. So tune in for both of those, and we'll see you real soon. Good night, everybody.